So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live peoples, recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I thought I'd do a bit of a series on the colour books that I have. Just at this particular moment I can't do a lot of colouring, so I thought I'd go through my books because I have a lot of books. And so instead of listening to me talk about things that I'm not quite sure about, because I'm not sure if I've made it up or I've read it because I've got short-term memory loss, if I can actually show the book and show what it says in the book, I mean, not all books are right, but, you know, there's a 95% chance that 50% of it's right. So this, I think the colours are slightly out. This is a colour chart. I was playing with colour with printer inks because I'm a tight Yorkshire lass and I have very expensive things because I used it at uni when I did my art degree, but I'm a tight Yorkshire lass and I wanted to take colour and have a real good play because I'd forgotten how to make teals and russet colours and sometimes you make them by accident. But when you get used to using them, you should remember that if you put an orange with a purple, you can get certain colours. But I can't remember diddly squat, so I thought, right, I need to start having a bit of it's a cheap sketchbook, but it's quite good quality. It's for drawing, doodling and sketching, and it doesn't say anything about water. But I've used pure Dr. Martens Hydrus, which are very, very vibrant and Inktense, and none of them went through. So I was quite impressed with that. But it's a little book that you can play with, and if it's all in the same place, that's quite good. So I was playing with my printer inks because I thought, well, if my printer can make all these gorgeous colours, why can't I? So we've got the very, very cold blue. No, it's not a French ultramarine. It's a cold blue. It's sometimes called cyan, cerulean. Cold cobalt blue is near, but it's not quite as cold as that. If you want the brightest greens and the brightest purples, the brightest greens, that's the colour you want. And then the red, well, it's not a red, it's a pink, it's a magenta. It's definitely not a red. And then you have the brightest yellow, the cold yellow, lemon yellows. It's not a cad yellow, it's not a yellow ochre. It's a very cold, bright yellow, the brightest yellow you can get. Now this particular colour wheel is an old one. It's taken from this Fields chromatography book. You can download this for free from Amazon, Kindle, a lot of places you can get this free. And if you type in this particular Fields, there are quite a lot of things on Amazon. Sorry, not on Amazon. On Google, if you Google it, you will get and look at images. You will get a lot of quite interesting colour wheels. And they're completely different to the way we do colour wheels today. Well, not completely different, but they change. With their tertiaries, they change. But what fascinated me was the amount of different colours. I knew there were a lot, but there are pages and pages and pages of, I think I counted them, there's 80 blues I think, and there's 100 and some reds, and but it talks about colour and talks about relations and harmonies of colour. Now things have changed a little bit because this book is from, it says 1869 it was given to somebody. I think this is Victorian. It will be Victorian because of Winsor and Newton at the back. There's pictures. There's some gorgeous, and again, very much Victorian sketches of all the old things and the old easels, and grinding glass slabs for making your own pigments and sorry, making your own colours, beg your pardon. And I think the pigments are in here as well. And again, it shows you that nothing's really changed. And it tells you all about different brushes, which I think is quite fascinating. And sets and the colours that are in. So I don't think that's the... Is that the biggest one? Yeah. The improved extra large and complete studio box will have, and it tells you about the brushes, but it says about the colours, are all in double. Indian yellow, lemon lake, Italian pink, gamboge. Now I love gamboge, it's the only one I will buy extra. It's very goldy, very sunny, it's very warm. Raw sienna, transparent gold ochre, citron yellow, citronian yellow, Mars yellow, light Naples yellow, yellow ochre, brown ochre, Roman ochre, pale chrome, deep chrome, and then you get an orange chrome, pale cadmium yellow, cadmium orange. But I mean, there's a lot of yellows there. Cadmium orange, burnt sienna, burnt Roman ochre, Mars orange, light red, Venetian red, Indian red. Indian red's another one that's very, very good to buy. It's very, very deep red. That's fantastic. Mars red, orange vermilion, scarlet vermilion, Chinese vermilion, crimson lake, scarlet lake, purple lake, Indian lake, burnt lake, rose madder, Rubens madder, brown madder, purple madder, violet carmine, Mars violet, fractitious ultramarine, ultramarine ash, cobalt, French blue, permanent blue, new blue, Antwerp blue, Prussian blue, indigo, extra malachite green, emerald green, terra verte, oxide of chromium, transparent oxide of chromium, brown, pink, Verona brown, brown umber, raw umber, burnt umber, Cologne earth, mummy, no idea what that one is, Van Dyke brown. Some of these we still use today, so they're obviously very, very good. Kappa brown, bitumen brown, mineral grey, flake white, ivory black, sugar of lead, again no idea what that one is, copal, mengilp and mengilp, okay, sorry, megilp. Also a complete assortment of brushes. So that's just one lot of colours in there. So that's a fantastic range of colours. Some of those we will know and some won't. And then there's some really nice sketches of the dippers. Tablets for sketching in oils, and there's also lots of other varnishes, most of them that I wouldn't think we could use these days. Spirits of turpentine, purified linseed oil, strong drying oil, pale oil, poppy oil, nut oil, Japan gold size, crystal varnish, brown ditto, bless, white spirit varnish, oil copal varnish, picture copal varnish, and mastic varnish. So there's medgilp in pots, copal medgilp, and asphaltum. So that was just a few of the colours, but then we can read what the colours are actually made of, and it actually tells you what they're made of, how they're made, and what they're used for in a colour for an artist. That is a pretty big thing for a chemist. to tell an artist what the colour's good for. Colours and colouring. It says it's how early they were. Egyptian kings had the walls kind of coloured. So that's as far as it goes. It tells you the first early colours. It said they had vermilions, ochres and indigos. So that's a little bit about when colours started coming in chronological order. Colours and pigments generally. By mixing. Now this is a completely different thing than I do. So that puts my this particular here, this next chapter puts what I do out the window, because it says the more you mix the colours, so the more tertiary colours you get, the less vibrancy and the less kind of, I've forgotten the word they use, but I'll read it in a minute. But they're saying it's not a really good idea to do that. It's not a good idea to make every colour you want from 3 colours. So that was a bit of a slap in the face for me. Let me see if I can just lift this up a little bit. But it's very interesting. It says by mixing his colours with white, the artist obtains his tints. So tints and tones are mixing whites. By mixing colours with colours, he produces compound colours or hues. And by mixing colours or tints with black, he gets shades. So this is where things have changed. In my day, if you wanted to make any colour with white to go paler, it was a tint. If you wanted to go any shadows or anything darker than your main colour, it was a shade. So I'll probably keep that because I find that easier than mixing them up. So a tint is anything mixing white, or in the case of watercolour, mixing water to make it lighter, a lighter hue. And anything that's mixing not just black, but mixing a complementary colour to make any shade that's darker than the original will be a shade. So that's how I interpret that. The above classifications of colour enables us to understand the simplicity of relation which exists among the infinity of tints, hues, shades of colour. Also, it calculates to give precision to the language respecting colour. So it says there are 5 classes of colour. There's the neutral, the primary, the secondary, the tertiary and the semi-neutral. Again, that's completely different than what we're taught today. But I actually quite like these old colours and this old way of mixing. So neutral colours are only 3, black, white and grey. So there's only 3 neutral colours. But I think there's lots of different tones of grey and there's lots of different tones of black and there's certainly lots of different tones of whites. So that's okay then. According to the laws of optics, the 2 first comprise of all other colours. And it goes on, it goes into a lot of thingy, but we don't really want to know about that. We'll talk about the primary colours are 3 colours only, red, yellow and blue. They are such, it talks a bit not even Victorian, it talks kind of different language, so sometimes it's a little bit difficult to read and to understand. It says sometimes they're called entire colours. Well, we call them primary colours, so we can live with primary colours. Secondary colours, there are only 3, orange, green and purple. Each of these composed of or can be resolved into 2 primaries. Thus, the orange is composed of red and yellow, green of blue and yellow, and purple of blue and red. Tertiary colours are 3 only. It says citrine, russet and olive. Of these composed of or can be resolved into either 2 secondary colours or 3 primaries. Now that's interesting because if you put the 3 primaries together you can get lots and lots of gorgeous colours. It says the cistrines consists of greens and oranges, or of predominant yellow with blue and red. So there's 2 ways you can make cistrine colours. Russet is compounded of orange and purple, or predominantly red with blue and yellow. An olive is composed of purple and green, or predominantly of blue with yellow and red. So that's why we got a lot of olive colours when we did this, purely by chance. We got red, and blue and yellow make green. But it was that one, wasn't it? Was it that one? They're the russet colours. But we made it with green, but they're saying blue and yellow. But we made it with green. But they don't say make it with green. And the last one is maroon, wasn't it? Oh no, cistrine, russet and olive. We've done all 3. So if you look for this particular book or you Google it, you will come across this. This is mine. So what they've done is they take the orange and the red and the yellow to make an orange. They take a yellow and a blue for a green, and a red and a blue for a purple. So they've got the 3 secondary colours. But then they take a green and an orange and make an olive. They take a purple and an orange to make a brown. And they take a purple and a green to make a slate. So that gives them olive, brown and slate. And I kind of like these colours. I really like these colours. And it's a completely different way. And I tried to do lots of other colour wheels. They do this silly colour wheel, but I just could not draw it properly. But what I may do is do that on the digital colour wheel. I'll make digital colour wheels. So that's quite interesting. It colours things differently. And it talks about the semi-neutral colours, which are brown, maroon and grey. They are so called because they comprehend all the combinations of the primary, secondary and tertiary colours, with the neutral black. So black, so that's actually quite interesting because that's what I did for my degree in colour. I did all about black, and I took all my colours very similar to, by adding black until I got to black, and then you had to look at it and say at which point is it a reddy black or is it a blacky red. And that's very, very interesting when you start to do that, and that makes you understand how colours react. But what I wanted to go through was all these. It does go. It's a very good. I haven't read it because I can't hold it. Talks about transparency, opacity, things that we really, if we're going to think about colour and really get a good grip of it, it's good to know, because when things happen, you dismiss it or you don't understand it. So with a little bit of knowledge is quite good, because you're not going to remember everything. I can't remember everything, but it just makes things fall into place just that little bit better. So instead of being completely confused and going, I don't want to know, it makes you think, oh well, actually that's why that works, and that's why that colour looks like that, and eventually it does actually come out that it's okay. So what I wanted to show you, and I'm going to do this, but it's going to take a long time, is go to the whites. And remember, this is a little bit of an old book, so it's a bit of a stinky book. And what happened was Thomas actually wrote this version, but the original is called Fields Chromatography. Sorry, it's not called that. It's called Treatise on Colours and Pigments as Used by Artists. And that one is by somebody Fields, and my brain's gone completely. I can't remember his name. Somebody Fields, and it's gone. But that's called Treatise on Colours and Pigments. But if you type that into Google, it'll come up, and you can also get it free as a download. The only thing it doesn't have, as I say, is the Winsor Newton things at the back. It doesn't have any colour plates. So page 81, so 80, 60. Oh, let's go 57. 57. It talks about pigments and individual colours. So, and this is why things are more expensive than others. It says thus the most beautiful yellow, like white, is that of which the lightest and most vivid. Blue is the most beautiful when it's the deepest and richest, and the red is the greatest beauty when it is intermediate depth, or somewhat inclined to light. Their compounds partake of each of their relationships. Okay then. I say it does talk in rather gibberish. In respect to pigments individually, it may be observed that, other things being equal, those pigments are the most beautiful which possess the most colour, whether they be light or dark, opaque, transparent, bright or subdued. They are some of which exhibit all their colour at a glance. That's what I call the most pigmented. The most pigmented is it's got the less of anything else added to it, whether it be chalk or what other binder, which is why pastel is the nearest thing you can get to pure pigment. It talks about colour within a colour. And it also talks about colour mixing, because we don't have to think about this, but you weren't supposed to put certain whites with certain colours because they were poisonous and they wouldn't work, and yet other colours needed another colour into them to make them work, if that makes sense. So it's a very, very interesting book, but we just want to know about the different colours and how many different ones there are. So I want to read about white. There's constant white, also called permanent white or barytic white. There's lead whites. Now the thing with lead whites, they're also known as flake white. Now I think this is the one that's the purest. It's the heaviest and the whitest. So, and it's the most expensive. So this is the one that even at college we didn't mix. The flake white, I think lead white was going out then, they called it flake white, and it has another name that we used as well, can't remember what it's called. You never mix with that. It's the most expensive, and it's just the best to be not mixed. There's a French white, Crimsonite white, Flemish white, sulphur lead white, London and Nottingham whites. So there's so many whites. Now zinc white, right, so they got Chinese zinc white because they didn't like lead white. And I can't remember which one is for mixing, but I'm pretty sure it's zinc white, Chinese white. Cadmium white, pearl white, white chalk, tin white. There's quite a few whites. And then we go to yellows. We've got Aurelin. No, you won't get that anymore because it's gone. Tells you how to mix them as well and what they're made up of. So your emerald green has got aureolin oxide of chromium and aureolin indigo. And it tells you how to mix them to get a particular, like an emerald green. An emerald green wouldn't be a particular green you'd think would be easy to make because it's very, very bright. Cadmium yellows, deep cadmiums, pale cadmium, lemon cadmium, mutri yellow, chrome yellows, and it tells you what they are, and within the chrome yellows what there are: Cologne yellow, jaune mineral, citron yellow, gallstone, gamboge. You see, I love gamboge. It's very deep and dark. It's gamboge. It's gorgeous, but it's very rich. Extract of gamboge, Indian yellow and lakes. It says lakes are several pigments. So again, the lakes would have been cheaper than the cadmiums. Now nowadays, you buy a set and the price has kind of been, they'll put a couple of cheap ones in with a couple of expensive ones. If they're all expensive, then the whole set's going to be 3 times more what a cheaper set would be. And that's all to do with the mixture of the pigments. Yellow lakes, Italian lakes, lemon yellows. And again, we've got lemon yellows today. Lemon yellows are chiefly adapted to points of highlight because it's a very, very bright, strong yellow. Naples yellow it has a warm yellow tint, pleasing light. So again, that's really nice, is that Mars yellows. So it actually tells you what the colours are good for and what they're mixed. Now they'll be slightly differently mixed these days, I would think, and I would think some are more chemically, but and they're not as, these would be poisonous. They're not poisonous anymore. So never worry. If it says non-toxic, they are non-toxic. All these would be probably toxic, especially the whites and the lead whites. So it talks about yellow ochres, found in most countries and abundant in our own. It differs much both in constitution and colour, ranging from totally bright through to not vivid yellow or a brown yellow. Yes, well, yeah, we have a brown yellow, is yellow ochre, but it's one that you always really need. Roman yellow, and I just want to say that there's like nearly 100 colours of each in this section. We're still on yellows, and raw sienna is under yellow. There's a lot that don't exist. Madder, there's a madder yellow. So a madder yellow is a preparation from the madder root. It is best of a bright yellow, resembling Indian yellow, but more powerful and transparent, though hardly equal to it in durability of hue. Metallic, terrene, and alkaline substances acting on it and reddening it as they do gamboge. So some colours were easier to mix and some colours weren't. So it says, while agreeing with Mr. Field as to the character given to the yellows, we must confess that we have never been able to obtain, nor have we ever seen, a most brilliant madder yellow. So they were dissing the gentleman that made the original one. Bless them. Turner's yellow, Montpellier yellow, mineral yellow. Again, it's quite good to see which colours they used, and then you can understand why their paintings are still as vibrant as the day they painted them. And then we get to reds, and again we've got the reds. Red is the second and intermediate of the primary colours, standing between yellow and blue. It is also like intermediate relation to white and black, and light and shade. Hence red is a pre-eminent among colours. As well as the most positive of all of them, forming with yellow, and the secondary orange. It is the nearer relatives of scarlet and with blue, and the secondary purple. It allies crimson. It talks a little bit it just talk in strange words at some point. So we've got the cadmium red, deep pale and lemon yellows, which cadmium at first afforded, were followed by orange, which has quite recently been succeeded by a red. Oh, that makes sense. This is most vivid as a red-orange, an orange scarlet, the red predominance of the exceeding depth. So that's why I made my cadmium red from my very cold yellow and from a touch of orange. There's the cochineal lakes, the carmines, a name once given to a fine. I thought cochineal was a thingy. It was I thought cochineal came from ground up little bugs. I'm sure cochineal is ground up little bugs. Crimson lakes is a cochineal pigment containing more a luminous base than carmine. So again, it goes into how they're kind of mixed. So it's quite good. A purple lake, a species of crimson lake with a purple cast. I would think a purple cast is like making a purple and putting a bit in. Red being dominant colour. So purple lake is a reddy purple. Florentine lake differs from scarlet lake only in the mode of preparation. It's used by using shreds of scarlet cloth. The same may be said by the Chinese lake. Okay then. So there's lots of different ways. Dragon's blood is a resin bought from the East Indies. It is a warm, semi-transparent. So again, if you look at the colours, it actually tells you about the transparency, but that probably has absolutely nothing to do with today's colours. Today's colours, you've got to kind of get them out the tube or play with them with water. So there's the madder carmines, the ochres, the red ochres, Venetian reds, pure scarlets, or iodine scarlet is an iodine of mercury. So again, they're not now, but that's what they used to be. Red lead, obviously, is an ancient pigment. So it's very interesting. It talks about, but it also tells you sometimes, it tells you what the colour is. So you can read this and think, very like the purple red. So the purpley red, and it will tell you where it would be quite good to use it. And then it goes into the blues and the pinks and the blues, and tells you what are transparent and what aren't. So there might be a little bit of truth in now the cobalt blue. It isn't the coolest of blues, but it is a cool blue. So it's good for lakes and skies. And the discovery of this important pigment was made in 1802 by M. Thenard, who obtained it by calcinating a well-combined mixture of alumina and crystals of cobalt. So there we go. It wouldn't catch me poking about mixing chemicals with pigments. But there is a thing about, as I say, they said about changing the colours. Instead of having 6 colours and making them, he was saying that they lose the luminosity, the greatness. And I suppose you can see that in the colours, especially the Inktense. By mixing my own colours from 6, they're not as vibrant as they would be straight from the pencil. And that's roughly what it means. If you're mixing an orange or getting a chrome orange or a cadmium orange out of a tube, it's going to have something that the other haven't. But I will say that mixing your own colours, and that's why I love this page. See if I can pick this up without causing an avalanche. It might not even be in this one. The reason I think I love this page the best is it was made from 3 colours. Because I bought, they were at half price, they were 99p, the Cotman tubes. I had cerulean blue, alizarin crimson and lemon yellow. And I know the colours aren't very bright and very vivid, but there is actually a connection. And there is something about painting from a limited palette, and there's a connection that it doesn't matter what you do, it makes the painting together. And I think there's a proper word for it, but I just found out by accident. But don't ever think that you need a lot of colours. Having said that, the purples were very dull because I couldn't get a warm blue. I couldn't make my my French ultramarine. So if you have 6 colours, you can make every colour on the planet. And there's something nice that none of these colours are from a tube. They're all these reds are made up. I don't think there's any that I've used exactly as they are. And there's something quite nice about that. So that is still my favourite page. So they were 99p and I bought 3 of them. And I had a rigger and a tablespoon of water. And I actually did it in hospital, because when we came out of the hospital, somebody didn't stop on the roundabout and my husband had to do an emergency stop, and that tablespoon of water dribbled down the back. Otherwise I wouldn't have a crinkle. So I sat, I was all day, and I made some beautiful browns. There's browns in there. I can't really lift this book, but there's browns and those teal colours and dark greens, but there's still some quite bright colours in there as well. And again, the yellow, that's not bright yellow, that's the cadmium yellow. I mixed them all together. In fact, I saw it, and it's right next to me. I wonder if I can pick it up without dropping it. And I kept it because I love the colours and I intended to use them, because I'm a tight Yorkshire lass. So this, and again this was 99p I think. It's a little tiny one, pound shop. So that's my Elysian Crimson, and that was before I put some yucky colours in it. I'll zoom in a bit. Oopsie, maybe on that one. That was my Elysian Crimson, straight out the Cotman tube. That was my Lemon Yellow, and that was my Cerulean Blue. So I've got 3 colours. I want a cad red, but I can't make a cad red with these 3 colours. I have to make an orange. So I took my cold yellow, and I put some in there, and I added a touch of red to make an orange. I put some more yellow into here, and I put a touch of the orange into there to make cad yellow, my warm yellow. I put some more Elysian Crimson into here and put a touch of orange, and I made cad red. I took my lemon yellow, my cold yellow, and I put it into some cerulean blue, cold blue, and made a green. I actually made 2 greens. So I've got Elysian Crimson, a warm red, and I've got cerulean blue. So I put cerulean blue into here with a touch of red, and I made a purple. I then put some more cerulean blue into here, and I put a touch of purple into it to make French ultramarine, or a warm blue. And as you can see, it's not that good. It's the only colour I couldn't get right. So my purples are not very bright. I can make the purples, but I've got dull purples. I didn't quite get my French ultramarine. But that's why, if I had the 2 blues, the 2 reds and the 2 yellows, I can make a vibrant purple, a vibrant orange and a vibrant green. I can then do other things with them for the tertiary colours, but I have the first primary colours correct. I still love these, but there's no way I can make a bright purple because I don't have French ultramarine. And the more Elysian Crimson I put into it, the redder it got. So it was a reddy purple. It wasn't a really rich blue like the French ultramarine is. I'm sure it can be done, it's just I struggled. So I decided that for 99p, or they would go back up to the price of $1.99, I would have a French ultramarine, a cerulean blue, a cadmium yellow a lemon yellow, alizarin crimson, and a cadmium red. I've got 6 colours, but I can make every colour under the rainbow. I don't have to buy sets of 13, 14, 50. And because this is just cotton, it's dried, I can just, and I got the teal colours, and you see all the colours around the outside, they're all here. So you don't even need a big palette to get, for a colour book. If you were doing a 5-foot watercolour, then fine, but and you were matching colours, that's different. But for a colour book, to just make colours up as you go along, 6 colours is fine. Which is why when I bought my professional set, and I did, this was my first page. This was my first page. And the red, I didn't like the alizarin crimson because it was too pink, and I didn't like the cad red because it was too cold. So I did a 50-50. So all these pinks and reds are from one mix. And I think they're in another palette, because watercolour dries and you just reconstitute it. So I have 6 professional watercolours, and I can make the vibrant blues, the vibrant pinks, the vibrant purples, the teals, every colour I want, because I have a French ultramarine, I have a cold blue, cerulean blue, I have the 2 reds, and I have, for the greens, I have, again, lemon yellow and cadmium yellow. So you only need 6 colours if you want to colour mix. 3 if you really want to limit yourself. But there is something wonderful about a limited palette. There's a couple of guys that I saw years ago that do just limited palettes, just 3 colours, blue, orange, and I can't remember what the other colour is. But of course you've got browns, you've got sunsets, you've got trees, you can make greens. So you can still make lots of colours, but from 3 colours you can get some really nice effects. So you don't need hundreds of colours. Even for colour books, I'd be quite happy to use my little Cotmans to mix colours like this. So they're going about the blues and the emerald greens. Somebody's put a daisy in there. I love finding old books. So then it talks about, it's talking about the greens, sorry, yeah. Then it goes into how the secondary colours are made. And again, that's quite interesting, because again you realise, like the emerald green, I wonder if it will tell you. Powerful, reflective of light. It tells you how it's made, and what it's good with, what people use it for. So it's a good little book, and it tells you a little bit into, and it'll tell you what the colours are. And I would think most of the modern suppliers and manufacturers of colours stick to a basic, pick out the basic original colours, because there's no point changing the name, like lemon yellow, cadmium yellow, ochres, and these are permanent. I'm talking about permanent colours for, don't know why. These are for mixing your greens, so it's talking about your yellows and your blues, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, genuine ultramarine and brilliant ultramarine and French ultramarine. French ultramarine I think is a little bit purplier, and it's a mix. Blue and permanent blue. So then it'll tell you about, you've got some bright yellows and you've got some cold yellows. You've got some white cold blues and some warm blues. So it probably will tell you about how to mix these. Hooker's green is a compound of Prussian blue and gamboge. So every watercolourist I know loves Hooker's green. And Prussian blue is a little bit cooler, I would think, than French ultramarine. I don't think it's too cool. I think it's just on the borderline between. Because Hooker's green's a good one. So again, Prussian green is Prussian blue and gamboge. But it contains a greater excess of the former. So Prussian green is darker than Hooker's green because it's got the same colours in, but you put more Prussian blue in than gamboge. So that's a tertiary. So that's going to be a tertiary colour. It's going to be in the middle. So this is quite a good little book for that, because again, we can all pick out, as I say, from our perfect greens, and to get the mixture of the Hooker's green and the darker greens, you need the cold and the warm yellows. So that proves that I'm not talking a lot of rubbish. That proves that you can mix your cadmium's warm, your lemon's cold, your Naples is coolish, yellow and ochres are dark and siennas are darker, but they're a different tint. They're not just kind of bright. The blues, you've got your ultramarines are purpley and warm, and your celeriums and cobalts are cold. So in order to get a lot of different greens, you do need 2 blues and 2 yellows. Secondary purples, and again, does it give you a list? Yes, so again, you've got the cold blues and the warm blues, you've got the cadmium reds, the cold reds, and you've got carmine, rose madder, vermilions. Vermilions are cold as well. So you've got warm and cold reds, warm and cold blues, and this changes the purples. A violet carmine is a brilliant bluish purple of much richness, employed in draperies and the like. So that means it's for presumably painting Victorian curtains and drapes, and it is made by, bear with me, see if we can find how it's made. Oh, this isn't a mixture. Wait a minute, that's not a mixture. We need a mixture, don't we? Need a mixture. Let's have a look. Purple madder is the only durable organic purple the palette possesses, marked by a soft subdued richness rather than the brilliancy. It lends somewhat towards maroon, and affords the greatest depth of shadow without coldness of tint, so it's a warm shadow. Unfortunately, in the whole range of artistic pigments there is no colour obtainable in such small quantities as madder purple, hence its scarcity. It's confined to watercolour painting, of which the clearness and beauty of its delicate tones render it invaluable in every stage of a drawing, with raw sienna and indigo or Prussian blue subdued by black. It gives beautiful shadows, tints, and will be found useful in skies and other effects compounded with cobalt rose madder, French blue and sepia, yellow ochre and cobalt lamp black and cobalt red, Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna and aureum. So that's telling you what it's used for. So we need a purple we can actually make with the colours that we've got. There will be some. So bear with me. Aha. So bismuth purple. I'm not going to say that again. As soon as oh, this is it's got madder carmine until it becomes of the hue madder carmine. Looking for the blue. Cobalt purples. So are obtained by ranging of the richness crimson purple to the most delicate violet. So they are mixing cobalt blue and madder red. Now madder red I think is a pinky red, so that's going to give you so a pinky red, a warm red into a cold blue is going to give you some nice purples. I might actually read through this and make some notes so that I can do things quicker on the little machine, and we can mix, because you can mix on digital colouring things. You can mix the tertiary colours. I found the most interesting. The cistrine being immediately compounded with the secondary orange and green, both of which yellow is in constituent. The latter colour is of double occurrence therein. So that means you've got more green than you have orange. Okay then. That's cistrine. Brown pink. Mars brown. I must have missed a page. Still talking about cistrine. So I wonder if it's a brownie colour then. Oh, wait a minute, here we go. So for cistrine you want burnt rowan or permanent orange and a permanent green. So you mix the oranges and the greens and it actually gives you them here, look, so I don't have to look them up. So good, that's going to be good. The reason I was looking at this is I really wanted to go into colour mixing for pastels because it's important to get the colours right. In pastels more than anything, but I can't use them at the moment. But I'm hoping, because pastels are very chalky, I can just kind of throw them at the paper and I'll get a colour down, but we'll have to see. So we've got russets, permanent orange and permanent purple for russet colours, and the olives are made, let's give you the oranges, have a look. Permanent greens and permanent purples. So a cistrine can be yellow and red, can be orange and green, or it can be yellow and red and yellow and blue, or it can be two yellows and one red and one blue. Or it can be so it gives you the russets. Can be a yellow, an orange and a purple, or a red and a yellow and a red and a blue, or two reds and a yellow and a blue. That'd be quite good with the hydrus because you can just drop drops in. Actually, I might be able to do that. I couldn't get the tops off though. If Hubby could take the tops off and put them in a tray, I could do that because I can just about, I might be able to nip a dropper with this hand. Although I did drop one of them last year. I dropped the green one all over the thumper picture. And then we've got olives. Green, a green and a purple is an olive. and you've got yellow and blue and green and plus red and blue, or you've got two blues and a yellow and a red. See, I make olives a different colour. I make them with orange, but I make them with a warm blue. And because the warm blue's got the red in it, that's where it comes from then. That's how I do it then. It's the red that makes it an olive rather than a green, if that makes sense. It's the red. So the red in the orange, I make mine with orange, because you've got two blues there. So this is how I was doing it before, is saying the orange is a red and a yellow, and then on the other side you've got a blue, which is a yellow. You've got a green, which is a yellow and a blue. But if you have a warm blue and a warm yellow, you've got red in all three. Does that make sense? So that actually makes up quite a lot of red, which would give you your purple. It's completely. In fact, we could do that with drops. That would be very interesting, because then people could see. You could see really how easy it is to make. Did that make sense? Hope that made sense. Oh, hi everybody. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm having a bit of a waffle about colour because I'm finding even turning pages difficult, but we're going to go through all my old colour books, and this is a really good one, but you can download this one for free. So that might be a good idea. And again, I can't actually write things down, but what I've started to do is I take photographs with my phone. It's a bit cross when you can't even lift your phone. Right. Although my phone is quite a large phone. So what? I was on the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a photograph of that. And I'm going to take a photograph of this one, because I'm quite interested in making these colours rather than the other colours. So that's cistrine. Is that the russet? I think that's the russet. I don't think I've got the russet. But you can make them differently. Remember what we said. You see, they're saying, let's have a look on this colour wheel. And I'm going to go through this one in another book, but really quickly I'll go through this. I love this book. I've only just bought it. I haven't read it yet. I've been waiting ages for it to come, because it has the colour wheel to mix. Unfortunately, I can't turn it very well, but it has a colour wheel. So we've got, let's have a look. We've got a cadmium orange. If we just look for an ordinary orange, on the outside we've got an orange. And if we put a purple to it, what do we get? No, can't do that. Oh, we get, and I would call that a maroon colour. So what was the other one? Because we've only got one purple there, and it depends on the purples, like we said with the other things. So this one is a cistrine, so we've got a cadmium orange, so I would think that's a cadmium orange. And we want to put a green, so let's have a look and see which green we've got. We've got a viridian. green, and that's given us a brown. So they're the wrong oranges for that. And the last one is russet, which a cadmium orange and a purple. Oh, we've done this one, haven't we? Cadmium orange and a purple. I don't think that's a russet colour. Now, when I did mine, but of course it depends on the purple. It's a purple madder, which is a darker purple than that one. So I've got orange, brown and slate because I did that differently. So if we go back to my colours, we need a purple. So I've got a cadmium, that's a yellow. I would think they're russet colours down here. So let's go for an orange. So I only did complementary. These aren't complementary colours. But the russets were with the cadmium because the cadmium is nearer an orange. So we managed to get the russet colours by using the warmth in that purple and the red in the yellow. That gives you the russet colours. Whereas a cold purple, which is what that one is, won't give you that. It goes green because it's colder. You've got no red in it. They're purples to browns. You don't get that warm russet colour. So if we look at the other way, orange, and I added blue. Yeah, it doesn't work with blue. Wait a minute. Yeah. So we're going to have to play with that to see if we can get these colours to match. Because the new colour wheel is designed that we've already got purple, and we don't have the russet colours. We don't have the maroon colours. We just have browns. So I think some of these colours will be quite unusual. Thank you. So welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm having a bit of a waffle. So that was quite. This is a completely different way of looking at colour, but it does give you an insight into. Sometimes it'll tell you the relationship and what it's good for, because sometimes you haven't got a clue which green to use in a forest and which green to use. But I love the fact that, although I love these rules, in a colour book, all the rules go out the window. I open my colours, and this is what I plan to do. Little book gone. And I can't actually open the pot, but I plan to look at my colours and pick a colour and use it. And I'll be doing backgrounds with these. And that's what I intend to do, is to not think. It's nice to know and to think, because as you come across things, you'll think, oh well, that makes that colour. Having said that, if you're doing a Harry Potter, or if you're doing something that you want to match the colours, if you want to have them a realistic matching colour, you will need a bit of knowledge how to get certain colours. Otherwise you will spend hours making colours. And again, that's why doing a page, practice page, you've worked out a lot of colours. You've already done it. So when it comes to your book, you get a really good kind of thing down, and it works better. So I do have, I have several colour books. This is another one. But don't ever think you've got to have tons of colours, because 3 colours you can make some really nice ones. But that's called colour mixing with printer inks. I think there's 5 or 6 videos. They won't be brilliant because I think I had my old camera, so it wasn't good. This is another one, pigment history, pigment stands, and it shows you how to do it, and colour wheels and things. And I love this one because somebody's got, and again this will be extremely good. Oh look, you see, a Colour Index International. So these are all the colours, and again if you see how many there are, I'm surprised. Now you see what they do. This is very clever. They've got blue pigments and purple pigments, and under purple pigment we have ultramarine, and in the cold ones we have phthalo blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, and that makes a big difference. Again, they've got orange pigments and they've got reds. But it actually tells you, and this is what the pigments look like. So this is what I was going to buy. They're like little particles of ground up pastels, soft pastels. That's what they look like. This is a really good book. It talks about colour and how artists use colour, choosing oils, and it's a very colourful book as well. It's a very colourful book. Does it tell you about? I wonder if. See here, very quickly. I'll just show this, and then that's a real colour wheel. So that's your 6 colours. So you've got your primaries and your secondaries, and then you've got your 12 colours. And then you've got this particular one. So if you had all your Caran d'Ache ones, you could take them all out and put them in a circle. I would actually do that and take a photograph. I did it with my pastel pencils. I've put them all, but mine are all in strips because they're all in the little art bag, but they're all kind of in sections. And if you look, your yellows and greens are cold, and some of your blues, and then some of your blues and some of your reds are warm. So orange, yellow and green are cold, and some blues are cold, and then you've got warm purples, warm pinks and warm reds. Then you've got cold yellows, cold oranges, cold greens and cold blues. So colour books are quite good about colour mixing for colds and warms. So if you've got to see, people use cold things and warm things. So it talks about colours. This is a good little book as well. I want to know what it says about pastels, but it's just a bit big for me. And just have a really quick look at what it says about pastels. Buying, charcoal colour choices, colour mixing, 35, Conti sticks, fixing hard pastels, engraved paper, oils, paper, pastel pencils, 34 to 35, so it's normally 35. Oops, got to be a bit careful what we see in here. Mediums. This is it. So it says watercolour pigments is gum arabic, was a traditional binder. I don't presume it is now, but it was. And gouache has something else mixed to it, but it doesn't say what it is. I'm looking for pastels, acrylic mediums. Oh, 35, sorry, pastels. Here we are, pastels. So, pastels. Pastel sticks are made up from a mixture of unground pigment, chalk, china clay, and a small amount of a binder and preservative. Mixed to a dough, passed through an extruder to produce a long strip of colour, which are cut to size and dried. But soft pastels. A basic palette. You can start with as few as 6 colours in cool and warm tints of red, yellow and blue. Oh, there we go. So I'm not just a lunatic then. So you want a warm and a cold red, a warm and a cold yellow, and a warm and cold blue. You can start with the 6 colours. And talks about paper, but we do things a little bit different. Pastel pencils give a harder mark than soft pastels, but they do not create the same cloud of dust, so they are cleaner to use and easier to carry. Charcoal pencils have similar advantages over sticks and pieces. So they are still quite soft, and that's why when we pass a pencil over the top of our shiny colour book, we can still get the dust to stick. Because somebody had said, how do you get rid of the dust? And I thought, if you're doing dust, you're scratching too hard. It really is. I mean, I cannot just barely scratch the top, and that's enough. That is enough. And what I do is I put 2 colours next to each other, and I use the blending tool to blend the colour, and that normally works quite well. Because remember, normally when you mix pastels, you'll put them on top of each other. So you'll have a yellow, and you'll just put a little bit of blue, and then you'll mix. And as you bind it together, you can do it with a brush. As you mix it together, you get your green. But we don't have that luxury with the pastels. But luckily, you can have quite a few different colours. Right, so that's another book that I need to use at a different time. So this particular book is for pastels. It tells you how to mix them. It tells you about colds and warms and shades and basic techniques. It's a fab little book. Now I did buy mine second hand, but I think you can still get hold of it. It tells you about markings. Now this is to use pastels and pastel pencils on pastel paper. All the rules fly out of the window when you use them in a colour book, because they're not really supposed to work. I was trying to find about fixing them with water. And that's drawing water. It has a good colour wheel in it, but it tells you how to mix the colours. So if you had pastels, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, there's 12 colours here. You can make hundreds of colours from those 12, and it does have Payne's grey. In pastels and pastel pencils, especially for our work, where if you need a shadow, you need to put it on. You can't be mixing 2 colours to make your Payne's grey. You need Payne's grey to get some nice shades. I'm trying to find. Oh, it tells you how to use the colour wheel. I'll just pan out a little bit. So you can see the little book. So it tells you how to use the book, how to use the colour wheel, and then it tells you how with the projects. There's quite a few projects. It shows you all the different pastels. Tells you what they are. Talks about pencils, which is quite good. I haven't really had time to look at this. It tells you about the paper, because this is for when you want to do your own work, or it doesn't. The brushes are for pushing the pigment about. They're not for using them like that. But traditionally, you did use a wash for the pastels, so it does show you all the variations, from the soft round ones, the long ones, the tube ones, the square ones. I don't think, unless it's just a big pattern, you could use pastels in a colour book. You could do, but it's extremely difficult. What I'm trying to find is some water. So we've got blending, but again, this is all blending. Yeah. This is blending with a tissue for a background. Now you could do that for the background in your colour books, but you wouldn't use as much colour. So you've got, it's a good little book. It's got lots of different things. And then the final one is quite beautiful. It's a barn owl. So you start with something quite simple, and then you work up to this. But for colour, I wanted to know about mixing the colours, because it's a long time since I played with pastels. So I hope that was a bit interesting and not just kind of a goodness me kind of one. But there's lots of little colour books, and the best thing to do is to go and have, I suppose I could actually do, I could do a flick of a book, because the one thing you don't want to do is buy the book and then think, oh, it's got 2 pages of what I love and lots of what I don't. So I could do a little colour flick of each particular book, but I'll just have to wait for my hands to get that little bit better. If you want to know about the history of colour and understand colour a bit better, this little book is fab. But this one is free, and although it's a pre-Victorian one, it's fine. It tells you a basic mix, and then when you can, although this was I think this was £5 on eBay. It says it's £10 in England and $19.99 US. But it is all about pastels, not just about pastel pencils. But you probably won't find anywhere that tells you about using them in a colour book, because I think I'm the only lunatic that does that. But it works, you know. It might not last forever, but it works. Sorry about that. I seem to have got a bit of a thing on there. So so that's the end of this particular section on colour books and how you can make colour charts work for you. Thanks for watching.